Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher, fresh off of a very cool performance at Fight to Win. We'll get into that very quickly. But first, this would not be an episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast without a brief shout out for our sponsors, your friends and ours, No Judges Needed. Your one-stop shop for all of your grappling apparel needs. I'm talking rash guards, fight shorts, gis modeled by the immaculate Mr. Kevin Gallagher, I might add, and also casual wear, because what is this sport if it's not something you can let people outside of the gym know you do all the time? Really great designs on all the products there. And any of these would make an amazing Christmas gift, holiday present for the grappler in your life, or maybe you're treating yourself. Either way, it's going to cost some money, and we're here to help you out in that regard. You can use the promo code JJT at checkout to knock out 20% off all purchases. We know COVID's hitting everyone pretty hard this year, so every bit of saving counts, and you let people know that you love them, you care about them, give them some new gear, increase their game. Once again, that is code JJT. 20% off at checkout. Go to www.nojudgesneeded.com. Thank you for No Judges Needed for sponsoring the show. We won't let you down. All right. Ad read over. Let's get right into it with some hard-hitting news. Now, it's not often that we, the hosts, are the news that needs to be talked about a little bit. But Kev, you had a real last-minute performance at Fight to Win coming right off of COVID. You're still feeling symptoms. So how are you feeling, and how does it feel knowing you cost so many people so much money?
Exactly. First and foremost, like I can't tell you the number of people that sent me private messages on Facebook and Instagram, grapplers in the community that we've had on the show, people that I know that have seen me compete before, that sent me messages that were like, bro, I can't believe you're the underdog. We're going to make so much money off this. We're going to bet off this. And every time I would get one of those messages, I would be like, bro, thank you very much for your vow of confidence. Josh Souter is a very, very solid competitor that I've known for a long, long time, that has been competing on a high level for a very long time. Don't think this is just, automatic in the bag. Here we go. Give it to Coach Kevin, because it's not. And obviously it wasn't when you saw the outcome. But all of you people that bet on me, I sincerely apologize for the fact that you did. But whatever, that's life. What did Joshua Duke say? If you don't have the money for your bets, you shouldn't be betting, period. So there you go. But, as far as the COVID thing goes, I didn't want to use it as an excuse. I didn't want to bring it up to say, well, I've only been 2 weeks off of COVID and all those other things like that, because I don't like to live like that. I don't like to talk like that. I'm not in the best of shape. I didn't want it to take away from Josh's performance, because obviously he did perform very well, and he was, to be quite honest, I'm used to him a little bit bigger. Normally he's about 230-ish. He's cutting down to 208 for the Masters Worlds, to get down to the heavyweight instead of super heavyweight. And I knew he was going to be strong, but his mobility was what really caught me off guard. He moved really well. And, I just got over COVID. I had talked to Seth Daniels when I found out they were coming to Orlando, and I said, oh, man, it sucks you're coming to Orlando this week. I've really been wanting to get back on the Fight to Win stage. I really enjoy fighting for those guys. And you see a lot of the Masters guys really out there tearing it up right now. So I figured, why not give it a shot, see if I can throw my hat in the ring. And I'm proud of my performance. And I don't think a 6-minute submission only match, you don't have to be in ridiculous shape to be able to do that. And whatever. I'm happy for the way I performed. I thought it was a good showing for me.
Yeah, I got to say, it looked like you were going hard on the attacks. You were playing a lot of bottom game. And you encountered this guy before. Was there a definitive game plan, or just sort of loosey-goosey? I know you're training with some absolute killers down at Gracie Tampa South. So were they beating your ass every day?
So, yeah, obviously I did not get into the shape that I'm accustomed to being in. That was funny, even looking at myself on stage watching. I was like, oh God, I look horrible. I look like a fat old guy. But it was kind of depressing. So I hadn't really been able to push myself as hard as I'd like to in a training camp to get up into real competition training level. But I have been training, so I'm not like I'm fresh off of nothing, but it's not really at that next level. So one of the things I knew about him, I knew he's super strong, and I know he's got a good solid base, and he's shorter than I am by a couple inches and just stout. I knew taking him down was going to be tough for two reasons. First of all, because he's got a hard body to shoot it on underneath. And secondly, I just know that I don't have that extra explosiveness to grind in and really finish a single leg or a double leg like I'd like to. So I assumed I was going to be pulling guard. I was going to, my game plan usually in submission only matches is to kind of toy with the takedown to wear my opponent out, and then eventually get into a position where I either take the takedown or coax them into shooting on me, whereupon I make them work a little bit and pull guard, or I'll take a good shot like I did into a single leg and pull it into my half guard and start working off my half guard. I'm very confident working off my back. And I feel like my submission attacks are at a higher level off of my back than they are for me fighting from the top. I just get to positions better, and I my leg lock game is more impressive from the bottom part and stuff. So
yeah, I was kind of hopeful just because that last second leg attack it looked like you were going for. I thought that would be worth more points, but you had said that the arm lock attempt he had early on was worth like 4.
So that's where I don't know for sure. It's hard. Like they just changed the fight to wins rules to where they do major, like they have an actual scoring system that the judges use when they're judging the matches now. So if you have a deep submission that is almost finished, they give you a 5-point sub for that. And then every other subsequent submission attempt is 1 point. And then you get a point for slams. So that's why you're seeing more slams.
Yeah.
And then you also, at the end of all of that, if the points are close or the points are the same or no points were scored according to that criteria, the judges now look upon who was pushing the action and enforcing the action. And, like whatever you can, I obviously the competitor in me thinks that I won watching the criteria. If you were to ask me how I won, I could say, well, this and this and break it down in my own mindset because it's an objective, scoring criteria. And on top of that, when you look at what happened and you think about it from the concepts of the way I perceive it, like the first arm lock, I was going for a deep half guard sweep that I literally hit on everyone. That's just my funk. But the deep half guard sweep, I come out the back door. And sometimes good grapplers will get that arm lock on the way down. Yeah. But the number of people that are going to finish that on me while I'm going for the sweep is going to be very low. So I kind of allow that to go without having to be too concerned about it. And then when we came over cross, it was kind of deep and I pulled it back out again. And now I'm in the top position. I passed his guard. Then the second one was when I was in half guard, I started to come up for a single leg and he got a real good guillotine attempt on me. That was, again, was it a guillotine that I was in any way, shape, or form threatened by? Maybe for a split second, but there was never really a chance of him to finish that. So now you can start to say that that's another one that scored based upon the criteria.
I mean, I think we look at fight to win, and I think for a lot of people, the consensus is it's one of the closest rule sets we've got right now to really generating fluid jiu-jitsu. There's incentives for going for stuff, and there's incentives for movement that aren't there in other rule sets, but every rule set's going to have problems. And so one of the ones with fight to win is that you see people going for those nothing submissions just to rack up points, like that heel hook's not anywhere, but it's there. The guillotine's not there, but it is, it could be there. And I think it's growing pains. It's a sign of learning more about a rule set. Seth is not married to anything. He'll change stuff.
He changes it every week.
Which is good. You want to see that because problems are always going to rise up.
Right.
But I'm thinking your big issue is that you didn't just slam this guy 10 times.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I am nowhere near complaining that he won. Like I said, at the end, I obviously I would like to debate the fact that I won, but when they put his hand up, I was not like, I was like, I could totally see the call was, it was a very close match. Even the announcers agreed someone's going to be disappointed at the end of this match. It just happened to be me. Hats off to Josh. I love the guy. We're buds, man. We go way back. Like he fought a hell of a match. He had a great strategy, great game plan. And to kind of go back to the idea of, the rule sets of Fight to Win, it's anytime there's a rule set involved, there are going to be people that not necessarily manipulate that rule set.
Play the game. Play the game. Look, Bill Russell, 11 rings, one of the greatest NBA players of all time, had one of the best quotes ever about what it means to be an athlete and to play a sport. You play to win the game. That's 100%. What you do.
You don't play for stats. You don't play for the highlight reel. The only highlight reel that matters as a competitor is the W at the end when you put your hand up in the air. And anyone that says differently is just flawed in their strategic approach. Like people were like, oh man, towards the end of the match, like he wasn't really initiating anything. He wasn't really going anything. Well, probably because in his mind, he knew there was about a minute left. He knew he was up on the criterion gauge, whereupon it wasn't really upon his interest or better interest to start going for things. And dude, like I would have done the same damn thing. So I mean, if I knew that I would have been up in my perceived notion of the tempo of the match, I would have definitely done the same thing. I would have hugged his hips. I would have maybe pretended like I was doing a little something here when I would look at the clock and realize there was 30 seconds left to get the W, move on with life.
I'm not gonna lie though. When I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, this guy's like he's solid. What is he solid?" But if the positions have been reversed, I've been like, "Easy go, great going,
hold on, dude. Just hold him there."
Strategy, big brain. You got this.
It's all about perception.
Fuck that guy.
And at the end, when I got the straight ankle lock at the end, I thought that would have been enough. But it is what it is, dude. Like like I said, I understand the strategy. I understand what he was doing. I also am confident and happy with myself when I walked away from the match that I did every ounce that I could all the way up in the end to try to work my ass off to get that W. I just had a few things that didn't work my way, and that's the way life goes. And he was a good competitor. He deserves a W, and I'm happy for him.
I think that's the absolute healthiest way you can go about any kind of competition, and hats off to you for having that attitude, because I'm not going to elaborate, but we both know people in this sport who would make a big kowtow about, COVID, this, that, other things. So, and we both know who I'm talking about, but
never been that way. Bruno Bastos, one of my favorite guys of all time, friend of the show. We've had him on before. I love listening to his quotes. If you're not following Bruno on Facebook and Instagram, you should, because he is probably one of the guys I consider to be the platinum standard for jiu-jitsu in our community. He put something up the other day. He lost at the Pans, I think, or something like that. And his first quote was, "Winners never make excuses." And that was it. End of story. Went on to say, "I lost. This happened. Good enough. Game on. Congratulations to my opponent." And that is 100% the one thing that I could ever try to instill into anyone that ever tries to compete, anyone that's ever been involved in any competition. You know what, man? Things happen. There are going to be unfortunate circumstances beyond your control that maybe are even sometimes nefarious, right? Maybe a referee consciously makes a poor decision on your behalf because of something that happened in the beginning, or subconsciously, who knows? At the end of the day, you should have done more up to that point to solidify your victory. You can never look at one instinct of a match and say, well, this is the reason why I lost, and dwell on that. You were ill-prepared. You made mistakes. You did things leading up to that point that had nothing to do with that point that caused you to lose. If you dwell on your failures and the horrible mistakes and mishaps that might have happened, then you're thinking like a loser. Just bottom line. Sorry.
Again, yeah, it's easy to forget that we're all doing a really niche sport that survives because all of us are participating in it in some way. So I feel like that we got that over other things that are more established. Like this is it's very insular. It's very much us against the world. So if you're out there grinding right now, taking matches, even though you might be running up against some young phenom, know that you're a big part of the story. Anybody. So keep on grinding. And also, again, we talked about this last episode. Always fear the old man in a young man's profession.
That's right. Right. I can't say one more thing and I'll kick it off. I can't think of anything, honestly, that I enjoy more than getting up to compete. It's weird because it's a horrible process for me, because as I'm getting ready to go compete, I literally feel horrible. Like I convince myself, why am I doing this for? This is ridiculous. Why am I even, all the way up until the moment of the competition. Then when you're out there on the stage and people are screaming and you've got the music playing and you walk out and you're up on that big stage ready to go, and it's just you and the guy standing across from you, like there's just something about like the ebb and flow of any contest, the grind to try to get that out. It's a beautiful thing that just doesn't get recreated in very, very many other circumstances in life. So if you haven't you like to compete, don't worry about the praise. Don't worry about getting Jiu-Jitsu Times articles written about you. Just go out there and crank it out because you love to do it.
But, keep in mind that you do well enough, maybe we'll have you on the show.
Yeah, exactly. If you do well, they'll give you a call. We'll get you on the Jiu-Jitsu Times. Make you Instagram famous.
I again, thank you for all your insights, man. But we talked about an older guy kind of not having a good day. How about we talk about the exact opposite? A teenager having such a good day, it kind of just broke everyone's brains for a little bit. Recently, a 14-year-old green belt submitted 3 black belts at a tournament and then got his blue belt. How we are not unused to phenoms, Grace Gundrum, Nicky Ryan, the Rotolo brothers, but a green belt, 3 black belts in a tournament. I'm stunned, man. This guy is incredible. JR Caballero.
The horseman, I think, is what that means. Like that means like a cowboy is a caballero. I think
horseman of death.
Jesus. Of death. First of all, a couple of things to talk about. Just because he's 14 years old doesn't necessarily I'm just look at him. He looks 14, but look at that kid. He's got big thick legs.
His legs are huge.
Chest is developed. Some kids hit that maturity level at a younger age. Some kids are just destined to get stronger faster, start to get their hormones kicking and become tiny men at a much younger age. We were talking the other week about Wagner Roach's son Achilles. When I was commenting on the Fight to Win 2 weeks ago, I was talking about his son, and I knew his son since he was a baby. Like I've known him since he was a little kid running around the gym. And he was competing, and I saw him against another guy who was obviously, 22 years old. And I made the comment, oh, Achilles, he's finally grown up. He's probably I can't remember exactly, but I think he's 16, 17 years old. And Wagner, 2 matches later, came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. And was like, oh man, you said Achilles is 17. He's only 14. And I'm thinking to myself, so like, right. You see these kids and they hit those growth spurts at that young age. And it happens at different stages for different young boys. And, on top of that, I think if anything, more than anything, what we're starting to see is a testament to how important growing and learning to do jiu-jitsu at that young age. Like I'm sure he's a green belt, 100% green belt, but I'm also fairly certain that he has not been training for 6 months. I'm pretty sure this kid's probably been training for 5 or 6 years, which would make him a brown belt if he was a grown up. So his jiu-jitsu knowledge up to that point, the mat time, the mat experience up to that point would put him on par with a lot of black belts and a lot of like amateur level black belts or black belts that aren't really high level competitors, particularly at that size. It's a testament to how good American jiu-jitsu is becoming by allowing these young kids and taking them at a very young age when they're very impressive, when they learn like despite themselves at elevated rates, and teaching them the art of jiu-jitsu until they start to hit that growth spurt, and then they realize they're men, and then they already know, like they're moving. They learn more about jiu-jitsu. They've forgotten more about the movements of jiu-jitsu. They have things that are so entwined into their muscle memory and mechanics that, they're phenoms. And we're starting to really see that with the Vertello brothers.
I think that I have a similar position, but like first about this kid, he's 14. He's actually only been training for 4 years. 4 years. But I also think this speaks to, you're right in that a lot of things are changing. And I think I'm thinking back to when we had Jay and Steve on a little while ago, and Jay's thoughts on coaching, where there's a lot of things at the professional level, like when you boil jiu-jitsu down to what's going to help you in a tournament setting, a lot of those self-defense aspects and like certain types of guards, certain types of situations aren't going to show up a lot, or they haven't been showing up a lot. So skip that, restructure the training, like focus on immediately what is going to have an impact on them doing well at the tournaments, on the big stages. And, Steve Joachim hasn't been training that long. He's starting to submit black belts. Nicky Rod, physical phenom, but going up against similarly phenomenal athletes and taking them to task, also beating black belts, had a win over Muhammad Ali and Cyborg, and as well as others. Nikki Ryan, another great pedigree. Grace Gundrum was beating black belts before she got a black belt. I think we're just seeing the fact that the way jiu-jitsu was learned by a certain crop of black belts compared to how it's being taught now to the youngest, like really bleeding edge competitors is different. Now, that's not to say that Galvao and Buchecha and Lowe, like those guys aren't phenomenal, but they learned a different way, and they learned a way that they had to improve in order to get to where they are. So I think we're just seeing jiu-jitsu being adapted differently by younger people. It's not like, I don't know. I might be rambling.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like the kids these days are learning new and advanced philosophies and strategical ideologies about jiu-jitsu, barambolos and leg lock attacks and entanglements and rolling back takes and truck rolls and all the crazy things that like older guys are either not athletically inclined to be able to do anymore, or just kind of like blank their brain with because they don't have time to try to figure that out and piece together, the structural, easy, simple, modified jiu-jitsu that we learn as older guys. These young kids are learning it from scratch at a time when their brains are just absorbing the information. And then, one more thing about the idea of him being a blue belt or a green belt or whatever it is like, belts are a very deceptive concept and construct when we talk about jiu-jitsu development. Like, I know plenty of black belts that have ridiculous knowledge of jiu-jitsu that are very, very sound in their education and their knowledge of positional jiu-jitsu and their ability to instruct jiu-jitsu that aren't necessarily the best on the mat when it comes down to competing on the mat. That will get their guard passed by a purple belt or get even submitted by a really athletic blue belt or purple belt. So the idea of saying that, a black belt should never get submitted by a purple belt. And if it does happen, it's just an astronomical event that's just off the charts. Like, that's not really true to the case, particularly when you're talking about guys now that are working with leg locks. This black belt might not have ever done much leg locks, I'm talking about, or working with truck rolls and all these other things that are 10th planet oriented that now the black belt instructor might not have had the same depth of knowledge. Now, when you talk about it from strictly jiu-jitsu knowledge, right? Does the black belt have more knowledge of jiu-jitsu overall than the blue belt does and the purple belt does? Absolutely. But that blue belt may be more athletically inclined, a better competitor, have a better cast tank, better be younger, faster, stronger, or have a little more knowledge of some of the fringe elements of jiu-jitsu at the time when they compete and at the time when they competed to be able to get to victory. Right. And I think it's really important, especially for young guys, to understand that, because I hear a lot of times, oh, he's a black belt. Like, he must be some like god that walks amongst water, and yeah, a lot of times they are. And a lot of times as black belts and brown belts, when we're rolling with blue belts and purple belts, like, we use that to our advantage. We use this aura of being a black belt. So now you're afraid. Like, I know you're strong and tough, and I know I watch you pass other people's guard with ease, but you're so worried to attack me at full go because I'm a black belt and I'm trying to set a trap. Well, yeah, I probably am. But if you really worked your ass off, I know you could pass my guard, or I know you could have finished that armbar. I know you weren't really in danger when I had that straight ankle lock. You just tapped because I'm a black belt, right? So as young competitors and young athletes out there, like, don't be afraid of the black belts. I mean, show us some respect. Don't try to kill us, but don't be afraid. Go out there and do your jiu-jitsu to the best of your knowledge. What's going to happen is going to happen.
Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Okay, Sarah.
Okay, Sarah.
I'm so out. I apologize. This is rambling, Coach Kevin, today. I apologize. I'm trying my best to stay coherent. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
Oh, hey, no worries, man. You had a big week. You know, so no one's going to fault you for it. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up something from the world of the UFC. Some big shakeups happening in some organizations. And Yoel Romero has agreed to sign with Bellator and will debut at light heavyweight. So, you know, the Soldier of God, an absolute staple in the UFC for many years now, multiple time like title contender, you know, just a phenomenally legendarily gifted fighter. Just physically one of the most ridiculous human beings to ever live. Like, if you gave me the option of spending a day as anyone, and I had a height limit.
It'd be Yoel.
It would probably be Yoel. Yeah, just because Yoel with an intact spine. Like give me him when he was like full Yoel instead of like spinal injury when he was a wrestler and a boxer. You know, I would just say Martin Ford. Shout out
Martin Ford. Oh, man. I just hit him up on Instagram. I sent him a message. He's super cool. He always hits me right back up, asking if he's going to come to Tampa. But watching some of his latest Instagram videos of Martin Ford training is just frightening.
He's just running and seeing him
and screaming.
seeing a guy that big run is terrifying.
And then just like turn to the camera and go, ah! I tried to get a little.
Yeah, we had to shout out. If you're not following him, go follow Martin Ford on Instagram. He's a ridiculously cool guy. Right. But yeah, Yoel Romero, Bellator often serves as a place for older UFC athletes that are still looking to make a paycheck after they leave the promotion. I don't know anyone at light heavyweight that's really going to give him like that really makes me interested in a matchup. I don't think Bader is still at Bellator, is he? Like, hang on, let me check.
Oh, even if they're not, they're just a phone call away from a payday. You know, even if Bader's not signed with Bellator, they could be like, hey, you want to fight Yoel Romero? We'll pay you $200,000. We'll pay you $100,000 to come do it. And I'm sure he's going to jump right on.
Well, that. I mean, Bellator's got pretty good pay scale. I mean, like, they're for the big guys, for the biggins. Like,
I'm sure they offered Yoel a huge contract too.
I mean, I'm just really interested in seeing him move up in weight.
It's funny you say that because I was hearing that now that he was going to move up to light heavyweight. Obviously, he's had trouble making weight in the past. He's such a huge guy. Joe Rogan always makes the comments that I can't believe this guy makes middleweight. When you see him walk in the ring, he's just such a huge, massively gigantic human being. Like, he should, like, the math doesn't add up for this person to be able to hit middleweight. He's just way, way too big. So that being said, I'm surprised that Dana White wouldn't allow him to make a run. There's a lot of talent and a lot of possibilities at lightweight, but no real stars without John Jones. You know, without John Jones up in the mix, and who knows what's going on with John Jones, there's not really a whole lot of star power at the light heavyweight division. So to get rid of someone that adds immediate star power to that division by moving Yoel Romero up into the light heavyweight position, it doesn't really make sense to me. It makes me think that there's more to the story than just Yoel wasn't good enough to compete in the UFC anymore. Because, you know, he had a few boring fights, but it's still freaking Yoel Romero. And maybe now, without being sucked out trying to make weight, his wrestling becomes more of a factor, which he hasn't been using a whole lot in his previous fights. I know he has a bad back, but I mean, the guy's a freaking Olympian. He's a bronze medalist. I don't see why he could have taken down any of the lightweights and light heavyweights and taking a dominant position in that regard. But who knows? We'll see. Maybe Dana White was just over his shit. He's had too many boring fights in the past, and he's sick of it.
Well, another possibility, given recent announcements, since Yoel is going to light heavyweight, there was recently another big signage for that division. I believe that division, or a fighter that has mainly lived at that division for the majority of his successful career. Anthony Rumble Johnson signed with Bellator. If we could see a beefed up Yoel against an already beefy Rumble, that's just.
I guarantee you. I can almost guarantee you that will be either the first fight these two have, or very close to it. To see what other reason would you sign Yoel Romero and Rumble Johnson on the same card at the same weight class? Aside from having an eventual super fight between the two, which would be astronomical. Everybody pay to see that. I'd watch that. Be interesting to see.
I feel like I feel bad for Yoel just because of how long he's been a staple in the sport. And I feel bad that he never collected. I felt like he should have earned a belt at some point.
Title fight, exactly. At
least, or title fights, maybe. I'm glad they gave him that chance against Izzy. And honestly, I really thought that was going to go better than it did. I thought that was going to be explosive. And I really thought Yoel had a shot just because he's an incredible striker. He's, I know he's been injured, but he's got proven ability on the ground. And Izzy, even though he just earned his purple belt, maybe not as much experience on the ground. It was something I was looking forward to seeing. I felt like he had more to give, but I am happy that he's at Bellator. I'm happy that he's still able to make money, and hopefully he, is able to get that championship while he's there. Plenty of great up and comers in the promotion. And
it's odd to me, just thinking about I don't want to say decline, but the twilight years of Yoel Romero's career, just to watch the way he has changed his game and changed his strategic approach to MMA. For whatever reason, he quit focusing on the wrestling aspect of his game. Maybe because it makes him too tired. He's an older guy. He's 43, I think now, maybe 44. That's old.
I'm going to Google it. Google it, and it's going to bum me out. Hang on.
Well, and to be honest with you, the Cubans are notorious for lying about their age too. So a lot of people think he may even be older than that, like 46-ish.
It says he's 43.
43,
Honestly, I would, if this guy came out and said, "Hey, I'm 50," I wouldn't doubt it.
Wouldn't doubt it at all. He's just a genetic freak. He has the genes to compete. It's sad because I would have, just like everyone else, I would have liked to see Yoel completely healthy, 100% Yoel fighting when he was able to be that elite level wrestler, and now combine that with his ability to strike and his fluid motions in and out. He has a very slick style that he has, adapted to his game because of his age. He plays a very efficient, very aloof kind of rolling around and throw like easy punches and grab and punch and things like that are very energy efficient because of his age. And he does a good job with that. It's just sad that we never really got to see the monster that was Yoel Romero in his early days.
Yeah. And then I feel like that's a good place to end that. So, Mr. Romero, best of luck in your new promotion. Obviously, we're going to keep watching you. No forget Jesus.
No forget Jesus.
No forget Jesus.
That's it. You got to say it like you're grasping onto the last breath as you're having a heart attack.
You're like, Coach needs you to uke for him, and he's demonstrating the rear naked choke, and he's bringing it in. That's that last little gasp of air that you have.
That's right.
That's what Yoel works with. That's right. And I hate to do this, but we got to continue this string of sort of fighters we don't like seeing.
Bring it on.
El Kukui
downer today.
Yeah, it's a bit of a downer day. El Kukui, Tony Ferguson got out grappled at UFC 256 by Charles Oliveira. Yeah, this is a nasty one. A lot of people thought, like, we're looking at this armbar finish and just going, mother of God, look at the extension there. Yeah. That is just bad. I think before we get too much into the meaning of the fight, what's next for Tony, I think breaking down some of the things that make this armbar a little bit more unique as opposed to your basic armbar would probably be warranted, because I feel like there's a lot going on here that just, it makes me hurt to watch.
Well, watching the highlights of it, I didn't get to see the whole thing live, but I haven't seen the whole fight. I kept forgetting to watch it. But when you think about the idea of, how it led to that point, there were a few different things that kind of, first of all, that was the final breaking point. Like, I think he broke it about 3 different times throughout the course of the actual armbar attempt. That's just the last phase where this is what guys do when you have a guy like Tony Ferguson that's really wiry, that just is refusing to tap. You've probably already hyperextended or broken that capsule 3 or 4 times in the elbow joint. So rather than just keep focusing on that where he gets out, especially if you have a nice tight grip around the throat like he does, like Alahori does, you pin it across, you put it in your armpit, and now you can kind of start to crimp your arm down and break that elbow across the outside of your own hip to get super torque on it. Lots of cool things and new things happened in this armbar. Amazing jiu-jitsu that happened up to that elimination point right there where they probably should have stopped it. And everyone was like, please just tap Tony Ferguson, please. But Tony's a wise competitor. He's tough as nails. He knew it was short time. He knew he ended up getting saved by the bell, I think, in the final in this round. He knew there was only about 10 seconds left in the clock, so he wasn't going to tap. I don't want to say I agree with him, but you can't fault him. It's a UFC fight. And to be in Tony Ferguson's freaking defense, like, he might just be a freak. Like, that arm looks broken to me and you, but I've seen people get twisted and pop like that in so many different ways, and they get back up again, and everything's freaking fine. When you got back in the corner, you could see him kind of moving it around. Like, oh no, I'm fine, no big deal. Tony knows his body better than anybody, but still amazing freaking display.
Yeah, and to see a guy like Tony who got to the pinnacle of the mountain, and there's always the biggest what if in MMA, I think, is always going to be that Khabib Ferguson fight, because everyone's like, he's won off his back before. Maybe he gets out from under Khabib and is able to get him in a triangle or something. And, then Gaethje was able to just completely stop him. Just brutally stopped him as emphatically as you can stop someone on the feet. And then that match is never, it's likely never gonna, unless he strings together a truly historic run against some world beaters. I think his time knocking on Khabib's door is done. And also, that's warranting Khabib's interest in staying in the sport, which he has said is iffy at best. There's scattered reports. He wants to come back for one more. He doesn't. He's fine. He's not fine. Dana White's going to try and convince him. But I think we got to hand it to Tony, because he's been one of the best advocates of jiu-jitsu in MMA for a while now. He's got some incredibly legendary submissions inside the cage. He's been all about advocating kind of out there stuff, but jiu-jitsu being there for him, like getting him out of jams, and his personal problems aside, I feel like it's good to remember that. And he's not done. He's not.
No, he's definitely not done. He's the warrior in him won't let him quit. Tony Ferguson's going to be the kind of guy that Dana White has to say, you can't fight anymore. You're done. You're done because I say you're done. You can go do a bare knuckle boxing. You can go to Bellator if you want, but I'm not going to be a part of watching you self-destruct anymore. You're just not on the level you used to be.
All the guys at bare knuckle boxing are like, we'll legalize kicks for you, Tony. Just come over here.
When I think about watching the last couple of fights of Tony Ferguson, particularly in this one, I just think it's unfortunate to see the decline of someone that was once thought to be invincible. And it happens. It's what happens all the time. No one stays on top of the game in USC for their lifetime unless you're George St. Pierre, I guess. But, it's sad. And it is what it is. It's the way it goes. Then we're always going to be robbed of that Khabib Tony Ferguson fight. We can always talk about it. But one of the things that I did hear some fans, I saw some blips on Facebook about this fight, was a little joke. Someone kind of said something like, oh, tell me again how Tony was going to outlast Khabib's top game pressure. You follow what I'm talking about? Like, if he couldn't handle Oliveira, how's he going to handle, Khabib in the same scenario?
I think that one they're I feel like they're dissing Oliveira a little bit. I feel like we're
Right.
seeing how good he is on the ground, and Habib. Ferguson is not a slouch. Like a lot of things have to be discounted for that joke to really land.
Right.
But here's the problem with Habib is that it's kind of awkward to talk about how good he is because you really can't build a basis for it for comparing him to other people because it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel accurate. You'd have to have him go up a few weight classes to really find people that you're like, oh wow, maybe Daniel Cormier is the guy to finally stop Habib.
I'll say, like, exactly. I'll say one thing about Khabib again. We'll just keep talking about Khabib because why not? Khabib's awesome. He's probably the most even out of the UFC. He's probably still the most interesting person in the UFC right now. Him and Conor.
Yeah.
We'll see how Conor does against Poirier. I imagine he's going to starch him just like he always has. It's end of the day, Conor McGregor is still Conor McGregor. I mean, I don't see any reason why the outcome of this match is going to be any different than the outcome of the other matches they've had. I still think Khabib comes back for a rematch with Conor for all the money.
All the money.
Yeah, all the money. Like, it'll be the biggest thing in the history of the UFC. It would be silly for Khabib. I know he's a man of amazing commitment and conviction. It's his religious conviction, his conviction to his father. His mother told him never to fight anymore, and his plan was to fight and quit fighting eventually. But man, how can you say no to $50 million?
Well, Habib's the type of guy that just takes the pay. Like Habib would probably just take that and then build a school.
Right. But I mean, $50 million is still a whole lot of money. It's a lot of money. You can build a whole lot of schools with $50 million. You can build
a lot of mosques, buy a lot of Qurans with that, man.
Plus, there's even more to it than that. Khabib wants to be remembered as the greatest of all time. He wants to make sure he puts that stamp on that. And I think that, whatever you want to say, that if Conor McGregor goes out there and starts starching people and says that Khabib is running away from him, Khabib is this, Khabib is that, there's still that element of, I'm going to go shut this guy up once and for all that's lingering in his head because their last fight didn't necessarily end on the best terms. Yeah, he won emphatically, but the jump out of the cage and all the other madness, you kind of lose the moral high ground after that.
I'm gonna not say that because I'm not gonna say that. I'll say it to you afterwards. But
wow! Now I want to know.
We'll put a pin in that. But I do think that if he stops right now, never fights again, 29-0, it is very unlikely, unless Izzy keeps putting him away, that we'll see that record challenged. That is.
John Jones could always say that he holds the record. His one loss was horseshit against.
He's also lost for legitimate reasons, like failing drug tests.
Right, exactly. Running pregnant women off the road because he's on a cocaine bender.
Yeah,
imagine that.
I love how he acts like, when are you guys going to let that go? Oh, when you almost killed a pregnant woman?
When you almost killed a pregnant woman, right, exactly.
This isn't like, I cheated on my taxes, guys, let it go.
It's just the whole thing with this guy, not to turn it into John Jones again, but what the hell? Like, again, the one thing I hate about John Jones more than anything is that there's never been any sign of true remorse for his action. And, dude, I have known countless people that have these addictive personalities, that have these problems with substance abuse, that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Like narcissistic freaking sociopaths, right? The only true sign of them ever recovering and them ever feeling the need to move on, or recognition of their own faults, is when they say, I am sorry, and they show that remorse. And I've never once seen John Jones show that remorse. And until he does, he's always going to be a junk, and he's always going to be a liability in my mind. It's just the way I think about things.
I think that's pretty fair. But more to the Khabib question, I think that there is I'm not going to say it's impossible. There's a pathway for Tony to get back there. I think a lot of people say he's done.
Right.
Khabib says he's done. I'm not willing to count El Kukui out just yet, but I do think a lot of things would need to change in his approach to training, and also, his game plan. He takes damage. He takes so much damage all the time, and he just can't do it anymore. I think Gaethje broke his chin. Gaethje proved that his chin is not what it used to be, and I think that's for his own safety. He needs to be aware of that.
Bro,
but Conor going against Poirier, as of right now, Conor's probably the most likely guy to get a rematch because people kind of forgot how badly he decimated Cowboy. Right. Cowboy, legend of the sport, perennial competitor. He bodied him in 40 seconds. Wasn't able to get a punch in. Right. 40 seconds. Just shoulder strike, to the point where now everyone's doing now everyone's talking about right. shoulder strikes like they're an integral. They were the missing piece. Like, no, Conor's just a madman. I
saw the MMA.
It's just
conundrum.
It's just shoulder pressure, Joe Rogan. but I do think that him and Poirier. Well, because Poirier did do fairly well against Khabib. He was dominated for most of the match, but he did have he came in a weird way. Poirier's come closest to beating Khabib than anyone else because he had that guillotine attempt, that last second guillotine that everyone was like, Kev, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but Poirier had that guillotine. Khabib was able to defend it, but he still knew enough to lock it in and get there. And it looked like that was the closest we're ever going to see. And by that time he was slippery, but maybe Conor's doing more grappling. Maybe Conor's doing more like maybe he's not so focused on boxing or whatever bullshit the Paul brothers are trying to lure him into. I think, talk
a little bit about that before. I would have talked.
That's the last thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think we're probably going to see him rematch Khabib. Maybe even Diaz gets in there somehow.
Well, I mean, a couple things have to happen too, though. Like Conor is going to have to probably win 2 more fights. I don't think just knocking Poirier out is going to be enough for Khabib to want to come back because Khabib has already stated, I don't give a shit what you say, Conor, until you win a couple top 10. You know what I'm talking about? Until you beat a couple top 10 guys in a row. Like you need to work your way back up the ranks to fight for my title.
Yeah.
Story. No other way around it. So I think we're going to have to see Conor probably beat, one more guy. Maybe a fight with Kukui would be fun to see, right? An aging Kukui if Conor can come back and make that happen. Or maybe Conor just put Conor right up against Gaethje, let them two fly at it, and then we'll see what happens. The winner gets Khabib again, and that's the process. Because if Conor has the title and he's calling out Khabib for a punk, that fight will happen, no question about it.
I think the one thing that puts a kink into that game plan or that order of events, because I do agree that Poirier's alone is not enough. Like he would need to beat someone else, but I think that all of that gets thrown out the window if Conor does to Poirier what he did to Cowboy. Like if it's under a minute, like blitz out of nowhere.
That could also be true. If he goes out there and just starts with Poirier and in the center of the ring with his hands up, that could be an automatic, hey, what are we fooling around with?
Yeah, if we get the Mystic Mac of old, of Jose, of Alvarez fame, when he was absolutely predicting the way things would go and it was okay to like him, I feel like that would be really cool. Like that would necessitate some changing of game plans for a lot of people.
That would definitely be a huge, huge payday for both of these guys. That would be enough to make it. And I'm almost certain, I know Conor wants to fight, but I'm almost certain in my heart of hearts, the only reason he is doing this Poirier fight is in order to build up the case for a Khabib fight, because the Khabib fight is just, like I said, all the money. Just give him all the money.
You know what I want to see just as bad as Khabib though, and that, like this might be. I know that the shine and the allure of this isn't as crazy as it used to be, but I feel like if he beats Poirier, but he does it conventionally, like with a decision, and it's not enough, McGregor Diaz 3.
Yeah, that's another one. That's obviously
that's all the money in the world. That's all the money in the world.
That's another big. I don't think it's as big as
no.
Khabib,
It used
Conor,
to be,
but it's still a big money fight.
Yeah, and
I'd
think
be curious. There's so many. I mean, Aldo Conor is another potential big money fight. You know what I'm talking about? There's some, maybe not anymore. You're probably
right. He's had some bad losses. I don't want to do that to Aldo. But I feel like he should probably.
Conor is Conor. Anytime you put him on, it's going to be the biggest fight of the year. Any fight you put Conor McGregor on, it's going to be automatically the biggest fight of the year because he knows how to blow it up and he's a marketing phenom and he's fucking Conor McGregor.
If he starches, I will take down an entire bottle of Proper 12 if he starches.
We'll do it together.
If he starches
have a Proper 12 show.
and if he starches Poirier, and
I'll get a bottle too, and we'll do some shots of Proper 12, and we'll get hammered and
then Kit will say, "You guys are fired.
You guys are fired." Great show. Don't ever call me again.
All right. Now we got to at least talk about this
real quick.
Yeah. Like a week and a half, maybe a few days ago, a YouTube star, Jake Paul, had a big boxing match against Nate Robinson. I think his name is, former slam dunk champ. He starched him because he is he's like an amateur boxer, and Nate Robinson is a basketball player. Right. So that was going to go one way. And then he started making he started calling out Conor. And then after that, his brother, it was announced Logan Paul was going to fight Floyd Mayweather because nothing makes sense anymore. Yeah, the world's crazy.
Why not?
Like,
it's all cash grab anymore.
Satan won. God is dead, and we're experiencing the end days.
Yeah, I wish, as much as I try to feign away from my old Jesuit high school Catholic school freaking days of studying the scriptures, like it's hard for me not to at least think that into the equation when I see the way the world is going anymore. It's like upside down world anymore.
Guarantee the minute the bell rings on Floyd Mayweather fighting Logan Paul, the rapture will happen.
Yeah,
and a bunch of people
we're all done.
Right upstairs. 4 horsemen are going to show up and going, Jesus, this place is already a mess. We don't
even want it anymore.
The dragon's like, hey guys, do you need some help? Like,
that's right.
But okay, so a bunch of really crazy, weird celebrity combat sports fights are happening right now. But to their credit, the Paul brothers are good athletes. They've put in training. They look tough. I mean, both of them were like pretty high level wrestlers back in their high school days. So that speaks to them being able to stand and bang. But the problem is Jake Paul is kind of ridiculous. Like, he's not as reeled in as his older brother, it seems like, even though his older brother filmed a corpse in Japan. So that just goes to show who you're dealing with. They've flirted with the UFC many times in the past, but recently, a few days ago, Jake Paul actually hunted down Dillon Danis, Conor's grappling coach and well-known Northeastern black belt out of Unity still, I believe. He found him, threw some toilet paper at him, and then drove away. I don't know if Dillon's responded. God, I hate this so much.
Yeah, exactly. This is the world we've come to.
This is the TMZ.
This is the news we have to cover. Dillon Danis and someone who is literally just a straight YouTube star are beefing with one another, and we have to cover it because it's
But I guess it's just the only thing I really want to know is this good for? Do you think this has any? Well, the only reason this has a tie to jiu-jitsu is just because Dillon is such a big competitor. He goes to Japan. He goes
going on with these cats now. So fucking whatever, good for them.
Yeah. Do you think this trickles down to jiu-jitsu at all? Like, do you think this has any benefit to? I mean, MMA maybe, but like,
so there's so many different layers to this onion to kind of work through to get to any kind of common sense and understanding of what's happening. There's parts of me that hate Logan Paul and hate his brother Jake Paul. Logan Paul in particular. Logan Paul's I don't know if you've ever seen some of Logan Paul's old YouTube videos, but like to say they are cringeworthy is an understatement. Some of the things he does when he's overseas, it's just like I guess whatever you got to do to be famous is okay. I guess, maybe you're making money, I guess. And then I guess if money is that important to you that you can completely destroy your freaking character and like destroy what Americans are viewed as around the world, or enforce stereotypes of how shitty Americans are around the world and go to it. But, there's a part of me watching them understand the hype machine and the level they do and be able to capitalize on market to be able to make money that I applaud them for, in just a strictly, entrepreneurial type thought process. But at the end of the day, it's so counterintuitive to everything that I hold true in my heart about being able to, to fight and learn how to do things and fight your way up to the top. Like, first of all, Logan Paul, whatever, he's knocking out old men. He's had a boxing fight before and he beat up some like other YouTube star. And
it's funnily enough, he actually lost that fight.
Oh, did he lose that fight? But he lost, but won. Like, I think he made like $20 million.
It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. So, and that I guess if us idiots at home are dumb enough to pay for it. I mean, I watched it. Hell yeah, I watched it. What the fuck? I didn't watch that fight, but I watched the undercard of the Tyson fight. If there's a market for it, why not capitalize on it? But the only thing I can think of when I think about things like that are guys that are legitimate fighters that have poured their heart and soul into becoming a fighter, that, sacrificed, that didn't have the opportunity to go out and party and take trips to Europe to go build their YouTube page, that are actually all about that life and living the grind to be a fighter, to work their way into the arena, to be able to get paid. Like, I feel like it's not fair to them. And I guess the other one could say, well, they should be better marketers. They should do this, they can do that. Like, I guess so. But like, when I see shit like that, I see someone that's obviously putting the cart before the horse to market themselves. And it's just for the diminishment of any kind of competitive athletic endeavor. Like, I don't know. We wouldn't pay, if some Pee-wee high school team or some like flag football team from fucking Boise, Idaho with a bunch of drunk bartenders, right, were to challenge the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers.
Real quick, I feel like whenever you need to reach for some podunk middle of nowhere town, it's always Boise, Idaho.
Exactly.
These fuckers from Boise, Idaho, man.
If, this drunk bar league flag football team were talking shit about the Pittsburgh Steelers and calling them out and putting pictures out and Scott, you guys are shit, you guys are this, you guys are that, and coax them into having a football match or a football game, like, no one would give a shit. We wouldn't watch it because it would be ridiculous. Essentially, that's kind of what's happening here. You've got the greatest football player, or one of the greatest boxers of all time, Floyd Mayweather, accepting a fight against what? Logan fucking Paul. Probably he's going to make $100 million off of it because it's Floyd Mayweather. It's $20 million, $50 million. But come on, man. Like, it's our fault for wanting to see it.
And I think it's bad just because, well, the Paul brothers kind of built their brand. Like, it wasn't originally like this, but their brand has become, everybody hates us, so let's market the hell out of everyone hating us. Because now if they take fights, they win even if they lose, because if they win, everybody's mad and they want to see them fight until they lose. If they lose, everyone's excited about it and happy, and they engage and they subscribe just to tell them to fuck off. It's a vicious cycle
it's a win-win for them. They lose, they're still going to get paid. Who cares? They still get the attention. They still get their names in the spotlight. No one gives a shit. Now, I mean, like, people want to pay to see them get killed. I personally, honestly, I think Jake Paul might beat Dillon Danis in a boxing match. I think that he might.
That was the weirdest that this could be bad for jiu-jitsu, just because people will kind of realize, a lot of us suck at throwing punches. And if you've looked at, no offense, Mr. Danis, but if you've looked at his fights, he's so bad at striking, homie pulls guard and looks for a toe hole.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what. Jake Paul ain't no joke. He's a big, strong kid. Not Logan. Fuck that kid. Jake Paul ain't no joke. He's a big, strong kid. You know what's really funny, by the way, just a quick aside. It wasn't until about a week ago that I realized that they were two different people. I thought they were the same person.
You thought they were just this one really busy guy.
just like the Gracie brothers. So.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, they're both real strong athletes, and I think I don't want to write anyone off too bad just because I don't know these guys. I don't know what their whole situation is. I know they've done some really stupid stuff, but I've seen Logan roll with crap. What's his name? Boachino. He just fought Izzy. He's got Paulo Costa. You roll with him. He looked really solid on the ground. I kind of wish that they'd pass the buck and challenge these guys to jiu-jitsu matches. But
there ain't no money in jiu-jitsu. No one gives a shit about jiu-jitsu matches.
They would bring the money to jiu-jitsu. People would pay to watch. Okay, here's the crazy thing.
I guess you're right.
These guys' fan bases are so fanatic and passionate. They would pay these guys to watch paint dry. Like, hey guys, buy the pay-per-view to watch us literally watch grass grow. And it would make a couple $100,000. I'm not. I
might
kidding.
Make a fart joke in there somewhere. So
exactly.
I'll say something extremely offensive in there somewhere.
I truly think that if these guys wanted to do, like, I know their hustle is everyone hates us, fly into it. But if you guys want to make some real positive change, get into jiu-jitsu. Start a celebrity jiu-jitsu promotion. Only we'll watch it, but we'll be happy.
Yeah. We'll talk about it all week long.
I want to see Snoop Dogg roll with Wiz Khalifa. Wiz Khalifa is a Muay Thai guy, so I do celebrity Muay Thai league.
I think I've seen him in a gi.
Yeah, no, he's trained before. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Oh God, this is off the rails. All right, you ready to call it, man?
Yeah, let's go. We got to go do that meeting.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, as always, for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. You can catch all the articles and news mentioned in the episode on the website. That's www.jiujitsutimes.com. But until next time, I have been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy the holiday season, everybody. Good night.